Okay, we are live. So, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining today at KDM Delhi NCR channel right here at YouTube. And so, continuing with our series of data spotlight, today we have Mathangi Sri, ma'am. Ma'am is a data head of data at GoFood, and previously, ma'am has also the head of data science at PhonePe with 10 plus patents and being top 10 data scientists in India. Good evening, ma'am. So,
Good evening,
ma'am,
Ashita. Nice to meet you, and nice to be part of this discussion. Hello, everyone.
okay, so without much further ado, let's start with our questions. So, ma'am, you have worked in several domains from an assistant manager at HSBC, director of data science at 24/7.ai, VP at Citibank, head of data science at PhonePe, and now head of data at GoFood. Please tell us about how one step led to another and what kept you going.
I think my interest in data and seeing the applications of data in real world that's what actually kept me going. And yeah, so I started when I started career like 16 years back. Um, the data science was not so popular; it was just around the corner. In fact, the word data science itself was coined in 2001, if I'm not wrong, and hence when I started out the career, it was everything was called as analytics. A lot of the decisions and models and risk models we used to build, it was using a lot of statistics, right? So that's how the field began, or at least that's how I began my career. And over a period of time, once the data science and the computer science world started becoming very important, right? So then some of the organizations that I was part of considered this to be game changing, right? And that's how I ended up slightly changing my path from a analytics core analytics person to a data science person. But however, the fundamentals remain the same. From whether you are doing it as statistics or computer science, large scale data, algorithmically figuring out different optimization answers and then coming out with your final solution that works. What data science is
Ma'am? Okay. Ma'am, I guess your stream is breaking. Okay. Yeah, so sorry for this
hello.
technical
Yeah,
glitch. It
sorry,
happens
sorry, that
once
was
in a while.
yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry
yeah.
about it. I think
No, it's all right
we're
now.
back on this. So I don't know till what you heard. I realize I've been talking for some time.
We were last about the fundamentals were same as in computer science and data
And yeah,
analytics.
so statistics, right? So, except that computer science takes it to the next level with for large scale data, and that's the biggest use case. So once there were enough successes in large scale data, it started getting applied across data of all sizes, and some of the algorithms which were done and dusted somewhere. In fact, initially some of the deep learning algorithms, etc., came into the foray. They started making a much larger impact. So some of these algorithms, so to say, got pulled out from the labs of a lot of academia
Mhm.
institutes, and then it started occupying mainstream, right? So that was the point. I also shifted, started solving problems using more data science and machine learning than by using traditional statistical techniques, right? So that's how I shifted along with how the market transformed, right? And from then on, it has been focused more on innovation and how data science can truly believe in can truly change the shape of the organization. Yeah, and then certain opportunities came by, and that's how I have been part of making these changes in these large organizations.
Wow, mom, that's been truly a wonderful journey. So much of experience and transitioning. Uh, I it really I think it shaped the experience over years, and you really saw the deep learning industry grow. So moving on to the next question, how would you explain your transition from finance to data science? How did you manage to upskill yourself in this domain?
So it was I was part of GE Consumer Finance, but I was still in analytics. So I was
Mhm.
well part of a risk modeling team. We used to build credit
Okay.
risk scorecards and credit scorecard using, like I said, statistics and analytics. We used to use these tools called Shade and Cart and all that, and also make sure that one thing that beginning taught me was to keep my eyes and mind over the numbers. So it is not like randomly applying some algorithm, but also kind of making understanding the core numbers, making a meaningful difference with whatever you do, being very glued to the problem. Be it from a risk stakeholder or from a business stakeholder or from stakeholder. My initial beginnings taught me that how we should be glued to the problem, and how important it is to the solutions finally address the problem in hand, and not be focused on building some fancy stuff out of it. Right. So
Wow.
it wasn't per se finance, it was
Mhm.
applying analytics and statistics in finance. And then from there, when I moved to 24/7, and 247 was kind of trying to figure out how to leverage the potential of the large scale data that they had. And machine learning and data science had few use cases which kind of benefited the business. And as a part of it, I started working on these problems.
That's great. Okay. So the next question, ma'am, would be for you is, since you had a management background and now
Yeah.
that you are in data science, so what would you think of one has helped in one stream has helped in the other? Where does the intersection of technology and business comes in?
Yeah, I agree. And this is a question I get asked a lot of times in some forums, or even when I go to interviews to companies. Like, this is a question that gets regularly asked. The reason is that there is finally you are solving a business problem, and you are wearing a hat of the business person while you are understanding the problem, and then you are wearing the hat of a technologist, or wearing the hat of a core data person while solving that problem, right? So hence I kind of think my initial management degree kind of benefited me, and a lot of things I picked up on the job from there. And hence I come my generally my solutions are business first and data first approach, rather than algorithmic first approach. And that I think brings a unique flavor. So if there are people who are watching the show and they are doing their MBA, or they're pursuing a management path and still are interested in a field like data science, as long as they are willing to learn this field, I think it will be a very good complement to what they learned in their degrees.
Wow, that's really a great inspiration, because it's primarily a thought that if you are not into computer science, maybe you cannot jump directly into the field of data science. But in fact, you just took computer science to your own field. You made it yours. You reinforced it with your previous management knowledge, the knowledge of finance, and then you implemented a problem statement out of it, and helped in a way that amalgamates both the knowledge of your management as well as of data science. That's really really amazing, ma'am. An inspiration for
Yeah.
many students out there.
Yeah,
So,
so
ma'am,
and it also kind of proves, people who don't come from a computer science background, as long as you have skills in math, and as long as you're willing, good at logic, and you're able to balance the left and right, parts of your brain well, I think it's a great field to be part of.
Wow, that's truly amazing, ma'am. So, ma'am, moving on to the next question. Um, what is the day in the life of a data scientist at GoFood like? What are your day-to-day activities that you perform?
So, I'll divide the question into two things. If you're an individual contributor in the team, then a lot of this is, so we work in a very embedded kind of mode. So there is a lot of integrated working with the product, and we align a lot of the solutions to the product roadmap, right? So, and hence there are regular stand-ups, and people know what to do, and then they are brainstorming solutions with their team, with the team leads, etc. They're also kind of looking at various options in research, and then they are implementing it. But some days may not be as great as this. Some days you're just breaking your head with the data pipelines and how to deploy models, etc. And it is not only for GoFood. I'm just saying for any data scientist, what does the day look like, right? So it does start with some amount of your time you are working on. I at least encourage people to work on multiple projects at the same time, because these different projects can be at a different point in life cycle, right? So for example, one project you may be sitting with the business understanding and doing some level of consulting, etc. In another project you are completely hello.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, you're audible.
Yeah. So in another project, you're completely deep into data or deep into getting the models out. So it's a mix of all the things. Not everything is glamorous. Some of them are great, but some of them are not so great steps.
Okay. So, moving on to the next question. Can you share any memorable challenge or experience that you overcome till date, uh, and you take it as like a big learning milestone or as a big achievement?
Every day I learn. So I kind of love working with my team, and working with generally any problems and figuring out what are the solutions out there. What can we do better here? How can we challenge the status quo? So this is something I really enjoy doing, and that's why. I'm at this field. Sometimes it gets frustrating also, because every day you are learning and then there is no end to learning. The
Yes.
moment you think you've done something, there's already another on the card, but that's the fun part as well.
Mhm.
There are a lot of challenges I've faced, right? So one of the things is, and for me, fortunately, I come, like I said, I learned data science on the job, right? So I learned it because somebody had a problem, and we had to solve the problem for the business, etc. But for those who are coming completely from an academic background, or people who do some courses online and then come to this field, one of the things that you have to remember is that. What you see as a hackathon or as a general problem out there is not what you see in a job, right? A job has a lot of nuance, and that's what I keep learning every day, right? So it is important how you do attribution for your models. For example, like, you could build a great predictive solution, you could apply all the state of the techniques there, but if you don't know how to attribute and what metric it is finally moving, for the problem at hand, what business impact it is going to have, it is only going to achieve so much of this, right? And that part of it is also very interesting to learn. So every time I fail, building something, and we realize, okay, we should have thought about it earlier, or we missed understanding a big assumption at the beginning of the project, or there could be a human angle to it, right? Sometimes you build models to help yeah, in one case we were building some models to help agents, right? Help call center agents. Now the models were great, but then they didn't find it useful, for instance, because we didn't solve the right problem for them. Right? They had some other problem, and we ended up solving something else. And finally, and all we were focused on through and through is some accuracy, FN scores, and things like that. But then finally, when it came to people who have to use it, they didn't adopt it because that's not the initial problem we had. So there were a lot of times this has been done, and then you start back from the scratch and say, okay, this is the problem, now let's start again. It's a bad practice, but it does,
Mhm.
with even the best of intention, sometimes people can get carried away by the data as well as the potential that algorithms can do, and miss the total human element. If it is a product you're building for either a consumer or for some intermediary, like like another business that to use it, or or in my case there was a lot of call center agents we built some models for. You could just miss the plot, uh,
Mhm.
uh, you know just getting carried away from the by the nuances of data and algorithms. So that's something I keep learning every time, and yeah, I'm thinking I'm getting better at it. But this is something I would ask people in the industry also to kind of keep in mind, and it's very easy to lose focus, especially in the early stage of your career.
Wow, that's really a very important point. It's this point is certainly going to be my take from this series of the day. Uh, it's I do believe that we do, as a student, we do get carried away. Okay, we could have a state of the art algorithm here, or
Yeah,
we could use something that's hefty, that's big, that's going to show that
correct.
how better we are at it. But at times, a simple for loop or if a statement could do it. Okay, ma'am. So moving
Yeah,
on,
so it is
is it?
sorry, just to
Mhm.
add, right? Sometimes the simple solutions can do wonders, and we just complicate it, right? So there should be always. It is very difficult, right? We want to innovate, we want to try something new, etc. But it is very difficult to switch that off in your brain and say, "Hey, some simple solution could make a difference here," and let's try that out first. At least that should be your benchmark, if not anything. But there is a cost to complexity. We should remember that.
Yes, of course, ma'am. Okay, so moving on to the next question, ma'am. The world of AI is pretty wide. There is a lot of things happening. Which are the ones that you see are going to be very important in the upcoming days?
What I think will be so, let's take 5 6 years back, right? When maybe a little more than that, maybe 8 9 years back, right? So text mining was doing its bit, but more in terms of rules, and linguists were running this field. Image processing also had domain experts running those fields, right? And that kind of completely got taken over today by AI. Right, so we're talking about Bird, GPT-3, and bunch of models which completely changed the way, for example, text was done. Right, text was done like bunch of linguistic rules, and people who are linguists were dominating the field, and AI completely took over it. And it is very obvious for a company investing in some kind of text processing or image processing, etc. The result of text and image are are very obvious. Am I still connected, Arshita?
Yes, ma'am. You're audible.
Okay, okay. So the return on investment and text and image is very very easy to see because it's a field of automation, right? You're kind of, what would somebody have manually classified or manually thought that this was the problem is just getting replaced by AI. That's good, but what's more is where decisions getting automated should be done next, right? Which fundamentally means your pricing decisions, your risk decisions, or your marketing budgets, budget allocation. And there are lots such things where as much as we would like to believe is being taken over by AI, but in reality, they are still being run by a lot of human and manual interventions, right? So I think the next wave should possibly come in automating large scale decisions, large scale financial decisions, large scale marketing decisions, large scale branding decisions. For example, allocating a media budget or allocating channels, etc., should become mainstream such that the models self learn, and we are able to deploy some of the large scale systems without even thinking about it, right? So I think that could be a big challenge for AI to overcome, because you are really competing with human decisions and human understanding and human intelligence, and you're competing that with your machine learning solution, right? If that can be overcome, I think it will open up to a lot of frontiers in the future.
Yes, of course. So
Ashita,
on
I
the
don't know
next
if you
question,
lost me. Yeah, okay.
no, ma'am, you're all
Sorry, the
absolutely audible.
screen is freezed in my end, and I'm not sure if I'm connected. That's why.
No, ma'am, you're audible. Yeah, it's absolutely all
Sure.
right from my end. Okay,
Sure,
so
sure.
ma'am,
Okay.
the next question would be, pandemic has hit everyone really hard. So, what are your views on the impact of this pandemic in the field of data science and AI?
Yeah, so see, at the end of it, also, data science will have to align with some of the business decisions. So, a lot of businesses are changing. Some businesses are kind of, for example, benefiting because of the pandemic. Who would have thought the world would some part of the world could still run when nobody showed up to a physical place, right? Today, government organizations and very strategic decisions in the central government and the state government are happening through video calls, right? So
Mhm.
who would have thought that technology would take the world by blow and not and things could still move further, critical decisions could still be made without people coming together, right? So that was something that the pandemic did reveal, and it did benefit a lot of these industries, right? Other big one is edtech, and it is just changing the phase of education the way we have seen never before, right? So we are learning, and we are learning at scale, and there is suddenly multimedia learning, and it is not only applicable to people who have finished their undergraduation or anything. It is even applicable at the K-12 range, right? So edtech is another thing that this pandemic has revealed. EdTech is another big potential field, right? So there are industries that kind of benefited from this, and I think data in these industries are kind of helping the process of these companies get better. There is a lot of companies which use in the EdTech that I know of are using data science to the maximum possible extent in terms of making learning process better, in terms of figuring out a customized, personalized, guided learning for the students, right? So there are opportunities that in each of some of these companies for data science to do better than what they were doing better, simply because these companies are growing, and they are acquiring, and they are data at scale. But data science in other organizations, which for example founded DIP, also figured out or understood a pattern that was emerging in users, and hence some other companies which were hit by the pandemic also found out a way to navigate or pivot during this pandemic, right? So for that also, data helped. So that's how I would look at the how analytics changed during this time. One is to accelerate their support for companies who benefited during this pandemic, and for companies that got impacted heavily by this pandemic, figured out a way to pivot the data solutions, or figuring out new business opportunities. For example, groceries is one thing, right? So a lot of erstwhile organizations which had a good logistics support from carrying out people here and there, are trying to get into groceries, of extending their logistics support to other companies which deliver groceries. So it is also kind of made people think about their core competencies and how to pivot, and for that I think data came in handy.
That's a really important motivation I see out there. As long as you keep moving forward with the things and tools that you have in hand, you can really grow, and I think that's the key to growth. You
Correct.
get the tools
That's
and you move
I think
forward.
agility is the key to growth. And yeah, so like if organizations have to be agile, the data organizations within those organizations also have to be agile.
Yes, of course, ma'am. So, ma'am, moving on to the next question. What advice would you give to those who want to enter the field of this data science or grow in this field?
Yeah, so the most important thing that I would ask people to keep in mind is, when you do a solution, keep the business problem at the center of the solution, and the data at the next center. If it's a concentric circle, the core of this is business problem. The next concentric circle could possibly represent the data, and the last concentric circle could represent your algorithms, right? So in that order, it's actually a funnel as you do machine learning optimizations. If you do not convert the business problem to a right technical problem, you're going to miss out quite a bit of your performance on that, and or maybe you will end up solving a problem which never existed before. So keep your eyes and mind on the data and the business.
Of course, ma'am. Okay, so I think this question is going to be the sentiment of many students and newbies is going to enter into field. So does GoFood hire freshers in data science team? What skills that you look for a fresher in your team? What are the expectations that you have from a candidate?
See, right now, the company is kind of, we are looking at different strategies, and we are planning for the next year. So, depending on that is when we will figure out our hiring plan. So, based on that, we'll figure out what is the right skill set of people to, hire for. So, as of now, there are no openings on freshers, but as things move, we will get to know on where we stand. But generally in the industry, if freshers have to get hired, my advice to people is make sure in your resume you are showing some projects or some initiatives that you have done which has made a real impact in the world, right? So because there are 10 thousands or 50 thousands or even 100 thousands of people out there who also have done the same Boston Boston housing price problem, or have done the same data set of question and answer, Yahoo question and answer, and figure out a summarization, etc., right? So don't make your experience only about Kaggle data sets. Figure out if there are any interning opportunities, or if there are any ways in which you could have participated in a hackathon that is conducted by some organizations, where you got to solve the business problem also. So that could give you that extra edge. That is one thing. Second, also invest in your fundamentals, invest in the math behind all the algorithms, invest why certain things work and why certain things don't work. And yeah, so some amount of networking is also important for you to land into the right job. So keep your eyes, ears open, figure out and talk to the right people, and wait for the right opportunity to come up.
That's a great advice for beginners out there. I think this should be a great takeaway for them as well. For me particularly, because we do like try to practice on this Kaggle datasets or common topics, which n number of people have done and posted on LinkedIn as
Yes,
well. So to
right.
really stand out means what knowledge, the same set of knowledge that you know, how can you apply that? Um, Maybe time series forecasting on some other real world problem statement. So
Yes,
that's a great advice, ma'am. uh,
yeah.
okay, ma'am, so moving on to the next question. So this is my favorite question, I would say. How do you keep track of recent advancements that being made in this field of data science? uh, how much important do you think it's to stay updated? Do you read blogs? Do you read books? Do you listen to podcasts? How do you stay updated in this field?
See, I'll answer the second question first. It's absolutely important to stay updated. The moment you are not updated, you are dead, right? You can't even forget about doing anything new. Even the job that you have been doing well, you may not be doing well if you are not staying updated, right? The way the industry thought about industry, I'm not even talking about academia, right? Academia is far ahead than industry. So the way industry thinks about a problem 3 years before and to now is very different, right? The way we would have solved a search problem 3 years before to what how we are solving a search problem today are very different, and hence to not being updated is end of story, right? So it is extremely important to keep being updated. So right, to it's survival, for survival you have to keep learning, right? It is not even for excellence. So that's absolutely needed. Learning can never stop. You have to identify and learn. Now, how I do this is I honestly don't have a process to do this, right? So I think I should, that's one, I think I should kind of figure out a process to do it, but it kind of happens. I keep my mind open. So as I talk to people, as I find different people working on different things, I understand, okay, these are some of the things that I don't know, so let me go and learn, right? So I make a list and then I start learning. And here and there, whenever I get across the blogs, or whenever I come across an article, then I understand and then I go and learn. A lot of learning for me. Maybe I've been in the right time at the right place. So there have been people who have been telling me, we tried it, and then I go and learn. So and that's how I have been kind of learning things. And there are certainly better ways to figure out a very methodical learning, but my learning has been more coming from what I hear and what people do more from experience, and then I go back and learn that.
That's very great. Like learning from someone else's experience, it makes you stand at a platform that's plus one, because you already have the knowledge that is simplified to you, that's filtered to you, so you don't need to worry on extra stuff much. You just get to know the basics and you get to know the right stuff and you move ahead. That's a really great advice, ma'am.
Yeah,
I
learn.
would.
I don't learn. I don't ask somebody to teach me, and that's not what I meant by learning from others. But see, you need to know what to learn, right? So the what to learn generally happens because I heard from somebody, or somebody had already applied. So it is more people telling me what they have done, and that causes me to learn. Learning is self-learning, right? So learning is through blogs and videos and all that. Once you know what to learn, the learning in the world becomes easier because it's only
Yes.
internet driven at this point in time, right? So learning is easier, what to learn is difficult. So the what to learn for me is currently for fortunately being solved more because of we are doing some of the cutting edge technology, working with great minds in the industry, or hearing about it in in talks, etc. That's how I learned this. That's why I figure out what to learn.
Okay. So, ma'am, adding to this question, if there is like a book or a podcast that you naturally listen to too often, or any blog that you go to particularly.
So I do the same thing. So I track to Analytics Vidya, Analytics India magazine, Medium posts, data science learning. Those are the ones that I go for, and some of the YouTube videos, which if for example, if I want to learn more about a concept, then whatever YouTube video is popular at that point in time, I do learn.
Okay. So, ma'am, I think it would be the last but not the least question of the day. So,
Sure.
before we conclude, any parting words that you have for our community members out here?
So, like I said, this is a very open and a democratic field. And in my opinion, simplicity is at the core of cracking the solutions in a lot of cases. So, certainly, if there is one habit you want to imbibe simplicity, but not losing the power of innovation, right? So, these two have to be balanced out. You'll have to innovate, you'll have to find ways to make things better, ways to make data part of critical decisions, but at the same time there is no harm if the solutions are simple.
This is a simplicity by keeping the park of innovation. That's a
Yeah,
really great
yeah.
advice, ma'am. So I think with this we can conclude the first live spotlight event that we had at KDM Delhi NCR channel. So it's been great talking to you, ma'am, and listening all your advice, all your suggestions, and about your extensive experience. I think it would also serve as inspiration for many of us out there, from the and specifically to those who are not primarily in computer science or IT domain, who hail from maybe management and other courses as well. So thank you, ma'am. Thank you for joining
Thank you,
us with
Ashita.
the.
You have been a wonderful host. I really enjoyed answering this question. So, great job to you and your team.
Thanks a lot, ma'am. So,
Thank
with
you.
this, we can conclude our spotlight event today. Thank you, everyone, for joining
Thanks,
us.
everyone. Thank you.